Okay, cool. Then I started learning about the animals through the pig vigils. Then I went to this car ride with Jane Velez Mitchell, Sarah Siegel in the house, a few others in the car. We went to visit this man, Dr. Silas Rao, in Arizona. And he was bringing this message about needing to have the world go vegan by 2026 or as soon as possible. What year are we in? Okay, I don't know about you, but when I hear the messages from Dr. Rao, I do cry. I do, definitely. And then I get in action. Because to me, throwing down a party, whew, with my friends, with you all, my new friends as well, is part of it. It's part of celebrating our planet and our Earth. I've been doing this for 30 years, throwing down events for the planet. So I was looking back on that. Without further ado, Dr. Silas Rao, system analyst from Stanford University, brought a white paper showing how animal agriculture is the leading cause of our climate crisis, y'all. His granddaughter, which he's going to talk about, Kamaya, he made a pinky promise to her, and I did one with my daughter by going vegan 6 months after she was vegan. She went vegan, right? 8 years ago. So, here we go, Dr. Silas Rao. Give it up for Dr. Silas Rao.
Isn't she amazing? Thank you all for doing this. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all for demonstrating that you all love Mother Earth. You know, Mother Earth to me is sending signals. She's not saying we're all going to die. No, she's sending signals saying it's time to change. It's time to transform yourself. And by transforming yourself, you're going to transform the whole world. You know, I call this the greatest transformation in human history. What does that mean? It's bigger than the discovery of fire. It's bigger than the agricultural revolution. It's bigger than the industrial revolution. It's bigger than the scientific revolution. It is the compassionate revolution.
Yes.
This is a revolution so that we can all live in compassion with all of life. How amazing would that be, right? Can you not make that happen? So I'm a systems engineer. When I look at this problem, anything I see what are the solutions. And the number one solution to all of the environmental problems that people are talking about is to go vegan. There's nothing that comes close to it. And we know that for all three of the environmental problems that the UN identified. So I say to you, imagine that you are a co-captain on Spaceship Earth. And you have 3 alarms ringing, saying change, change, change. One is that your passengers are all dying in the spaceship. The wild animals are all dying in the spaceship. That's the number one alarm that the UN identifies. They call it biodiversity loss. It's simple, it's just wild animals are dying. So we looked at how fast are the wild animals dying. That tells you how soon we have to transform. So I was following that, and the World Wildlife Fund has this Living Planet report where it tells you how much of the wild animal species have died off between 1970 and the year that they were measuring. It takes them 4 years to compile the data. So when they report, and they only report once every 2 years. So they reported in 2014 that between 1970 and 2010, 52% of all wild animals died off. But they didn't die off, folks. We killed them. Okay, let's take responsibility for what we did. We killed them, 52%. And when that happened, I did a calculation, assuming that we're killing wild animals at the rate at which we're growing the economy. And if that's the case, how soon do we have to transform? And the answer was 2026. That you better get it done by 2026. That's what the data was telling me. I was shocked when I made that calculation. I thought maybe my calculations are wrong, because I'm just assuming it's proportional to the economy. It's a very simple-minded model. So I started waiting for the next report. The next report came out in 2016, and it said that between 1970 and 2012, 58% of wild animals disappeared. So it went from 52 to 58 in 2 years. At that rate, it's going to hit 100% by 2026. I knew that. So I knew that my calculations were correct. And that evening, I was reading a story to my granddaughter in bed, and it was actually, Ruby Roth's book. That's Why We Don't Eat Animals. At the end of the story, she put her head on my shoulder and she said, "Grandpa, who were the first human beings?" And I have promised her that I'll never ever lie to her. So I said to her, "I'm going to explain to you how it works. Imagine that you're standing on the street and you're holding your mother by your hand. Then you ask your mother to bring her mother to stand by her side, and so on. So you create a long line of mothers on this side of the street. And on the other side of the street, you ask a chimpanzee to do the same thing with her mother and her grandmother and so on. By the time these two lines go from Phoenix to Tucson, they will merge. Because both lines are going to say, hey, that's my mama too." Immediately she just sat up in bed. She said, "What? Are you telling me that animals are my family?" And I said, "Now that you put it that way, yeah, they are your family." She said, then why are people eating my family?" "Grandpa, make them stop, they're eating my family." And she started naming names of people she knows who are eating her family. And I was trying to console her, because here is this baby I was trying to put to sleep, and she's bawling away. And I realized I created a world full of monsters for my granddaughter by trying to tell her the truth. So I told her, "Kimaya, please stop crying. It's my job to make them stop. Okay, this is what I'm doing." Immediately she stopped crying. She looked at me. She said, "This is your job? This is your, you haven't done your job." And she said, "Do your job." And she said, "When will you do your job?" And I blurted out, "I better do it by 2026, otherwise we are all in big trouble." She said, "Will you promise me that?" I said, "Okay, I'll promise you that." She said, "Will you give me a pinky promise?" And I had no idea what it meant. I said, "Okay, I'll give you a pinky promise." She said, "Hold out your pinky." She locked her pinky in mine and she said, "You can never ever break a pinky promise." And then she went to sleep. And you can imagine the turmoil that was going through my mind. Because I realized I'd made a very serious promise to a little girl on behalf of our generation. In fact, it's a promise that I now embrace. I realize that we all have responsibilities, and my responsibility as a systems engineer is to figure out how to do this. How do we get to a vegan world by 2026? How do we do that? Is it feasible? Of course it's feasible. Look at it. Just eat healthy food. Don't wear animals. Start being kind to animals. This is not complicated stuff. Everybody can do it. Okay? So, but we have systems around us that are all about cruelty, exploitation, taking advantage of others. So, we have to create a new game that deals with this systematically. And that's what we are working on. And I welcome all of you to come and join Climate Healers, and let's figure this out. This is the most creative period in human history. And you're all here because you have a unique gift. Because I realize that nature never makes mistakes. Nature has put you here because she knows that you can make this happen within the next 3 years. We all can. We can do this. Okay? And the new games we have to create, the new systems we have to create are actually amazing. Imagine bringing back wildlife. That's what we'll be doing. Restoration of forests. This is what we'll be doing. And you can show that eating animal foods is the leading cause of every one of these environmental problems. Biodiversity loss, they know it. Okay? This is why they don't talk about it. Loss of wild animals, we know it's caused by us eating animal foods because we keep taking away their forests. Every year we are taking away 30 million acres of forest. Where do you think the wild animals are going? They're dying off. If you look at the total land, ice-free land on the planet, 91% of it is being used for human purposes. Only 9% is left for wild animals. And there we are taking away another 30 million acres every year. If you keep doing that, where will the wild animals go? They're going to die off. We know that. And the number one reason for doing that is animal agriculture. They know it too. Everyone knows it. This is why they don't talk about it. They only focus on climate change. Do you know why? Because they are framing it as a fossil fuel problem. And with that, they can make more money. You know, this is a con job they're running, okay? It's a complete con job. Because if you look at the land use, we eat, 85% of the food we eat is already plant-based. 85% is already plant-based. And to get that 85% of the food, we are only using 7% of the land area of the planet. So if we take all the land we are using for growing plant foods for our consumption and put it in one spot, it will fit inside Australia. If we take all of our cities, all of our highways, all of our railroads and put it in one spot, it will fit inside Madagascar. It's only 1% of the land area of the planet. But if we take all the land we are using to grow our animal foods and put it in one spot, it will cover all of Europe, most of Asia, and a little bit of Africa. It's 40% of the land area of the planet, at least, to get 12% of the food we eat. And on that land, only 2% of the land carbon is sitting. The CO2 on land is 3 times as much as the CO2 in the atmosphere. Because trees suck down the CO2 and they put it up there, you know. This is all sequestered CO2. Every tree is sequestered CO2 from the atmosphere. There is 3 times as much in land as there is in the atmosphere. And on the land that we are using for animal foods, there is only 2% of the CO2 on land. Tell me, can we not solve climate change if we just go vegan? Tell me. This is logic 101, folks. And yet they're sitting around pretending it's got nothing to do with animal foods. It's not the fault of the scientists, by the way. It's the governments who run the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change who go and take things out. Scientists have told them, promote a plant-based diet. The governments went and took that out and threw it away. They don't want us to know. Because they're trying to kill us. So, but we don't have to go along with that, right? Because they're all about only money. We can transform. Because I say, transform yourself. You are a co-captain on Spaceship Earth. Every one of you is a co-captain on Spaceship Earth. And everything you do matters. Everything you do matters. In fact, you have a responsibility and you will be, you know, when you transform this situation, you will be seen as the greatest generation that ever lived. Welcome to them. Thank you so much.